Hey there, my name is Grant Abbott, and I'm a town councillor out in beautiful Musgrave Harbour, Newfoundland. Come out and enjoy our Florida-esque beaches this summer and our beautiful snow-frosted countrysides this winter. This video is for August 30th, 2023 council meeting. Before I was elected, I promised transparency and accountability on the town council processes and deliberations. This was after I found, as a citizen trying to bring my contribution to the town council, that having a basic interaction was difficult due to an us-them mentality and an almost true fact that town councils are almost untouchable authority, and that the benefits of being transparent would bring better success and foster better collaboration for those who wanted to contribute. Unfortunately, I was initially unsuccessful with my first interactions with the town. The whole package that I submitted was misunderstood, and there was no opportunity to discuss or interface with the town to correct the errors of perception on my plan. Mind you, this had to do with COVID mainly, being the buzzword of the day, and also due to the unwillingness of the town council to work with follow-ups or to drive and collaborate to make things happen with a positive spin. This was lacking. I was quickly labeled as being harassing due to my wanting to express myself clearly and follow up with these misunderstandings. And later the HR investigation looked at all emails and found that I was not harassing in any way, shape, or form. I was never allowed to question or retort any questions to the council that they found in their lack of misunderstandings about the plan. I must admit, though, that all of my talking to various people, I found that small town councils have no human resources, no official guidance, no interpretation, and no legal advice unless they seek it and pay for it. So basically, they're on their own, and they need to interpret their own situation themselves as best they can. Also, no one can hold a town council responsible except for the voters and the legal process. If they're ever challenged, they need to find the correct way to figure out the resolution all by themselves. If they're too proud to go to legal counsel, which our town council had been for one of the first interactions with me that required legal advice, at the end of the day, as long as we try to be good people to each other, whatever happens is not entirely the responsibility of those involved. One needs to be held responsible for their actions if ever there comes a time when that can be done. As the law suggests, though, ignorance is no excuse from the law, much as the same as inaction or disregard to atrocities or wrongs. You must use your ethics and morals in order to get a pass on your responsibilities for what you do or for what has happened because of your inaction or action. I find it hard to believe that a good person would be able to look at my family and my decisions and be anything but sympathetic to the situation. Either you don't understand or you have mental issues. I can't comprehend any other reality. If you want help to understand, let me know, and I'll talk to you, and I'll give you the same truth every time. Otherwise, your negative opinion without base doesn't matter to me. I was challenged to run as councillor after tremendous terrorizing and harassment of my family by skeets and aggressive people, and it's cost me my reputation, my family's comfort, not to mention $8,000 in legal bills after winning the appeal from being illegally removed from my elected seat by colluding individuals who created policies and procedures to shore up COVID scam dates, making it harder rather than easier for me to participate and contribute, causing a legal, financial, and social chain reaction. Oh, feelings, how they make logic cloudy sometimes. In the meantime, we've lost over a year and a half of potential. Very few of the ideas or contributions that I had were processed, and we're $50,000 less financially secure as a community than we had been before all this began. Many of the answers to the ideas that I would like to implement would be responded with, "But Grant, we don't have enough money," to which my answer would be, "It wouldn't have been spent if you guys had been compassionate and responsible." What amazing things we could have done with $50,000. We could have fought the Business Development Bank of Canada and had them take responsibility for the deteriorating grocery store, or we could have used the money for other efforts or community activities. Instead of maybe fix the road around Arthur Party's turn. Instead of spending that money fighting with me and your egos and putting my efforts to good use, contrary to your lawyer's advice and contrary to any rational or reasonable thought. I don't see any justification for the town spending $50,000, and I believe the town must give an apology to me and then to the citizens. No one has any advice or any stories or any situations that have been told publicly to validate why we are in this position. In the meantime, the publicly available documentation regarding my family's experience is full and available to everyone to view. What is known for a fact is that I've been harassed by the Musgrave Harbour mob, likely tops 20 people, plus a psychopath from Calgary, and supporters from the 20 or so's flying monkeys. Some of these blinded people have changed their mind and don't feel the same way about us anymore. And they've been influenced by the hate site that was created by the psychopath social puppeteer from Calgary. If any of you still have hate, it is you that needs to change. It is you that needs to make an adjustment in your way of life, not me. And again, if you really think that you're right and want to know the facts, schedule some time to have a chat with me, face to face, but leave your aggression by the door. We'll figure stuff out if you really want to. In my future videos, I'm not going to be talking so much about this kind of details. I'll be talking less and less about why I'm doing what I'm doing and focus more on the events, the ideas, previous meetings, and what's planned for the upcoming meeting agenda, and at least for what's being put on the agenda for my concerns. I really hope that the town would publish their agenda as well, so the citizens can know what's happening in the next meeting and decide to attend the publicly broadcasted meeting or review the publicly available record of the audio. This won't happen as of what I currently know about the situation. The town most likely will decide again that they don't want to have any online meetings when they're able to have them in person again. And that would mean that they would be canceling the broadcast. I know of people who are not from this town currently, who reside elsewhere, that cannot make it to the meetings, who would love to listen to this meeting continuously into the future and not just be stopped when we get back into in-person meetings again. The town would likely try to enforce the illegal audio policy and procedure again with a full house of citizens in the galley. And it would force me to stand on a point of order again. And this will start all over. And this is because the town has agreed on having a meeting to talk about the illegal policies and procedures, but they insist to have the in-person meeting as opposed to online, which means that this is going to put me in the same situation when I object again to the audio policy. This is because the town has agreed on having a meeting to talk about the illegal policies and procedures, but they insist to have me in person when we do it as opposed to online, which means that it's going to put me in a situation in a public meeting, once again, where I need to object to the audio policy that says that I'm not supposed to record the public meeting as per the made-up illegal rule. The town last time stopped the meeting and it caused a ruckus. This is going to happen again. The town has been ordered to create a violence prevention plan in result of those events, based around the events that happened at the town meeting when a visitor was assaulted and the meeting was stopped abruptly after I followed rules of procedure and stood on point of order to talk about the illegal policies and procedures in place. After my calling out the lack of timely and thoughtful email responses from the town on Facebook, I got some good replies. I hesitate to provide word for word quotes of what was said, but will instead paraphrase details about the responses at the end of this video after we talk about tonight's meeting agenda. One thing to mention, though, is that because I'm not part of any official committee except for Heritage, and I've not been invited to any such meetings, I don't have any bullet points on the agenda and no real place to speak except for the topic of correspondence, and my concerns are not recorded. I've asked why this is, because I'm an elected official, and it was said that to them that I would like to have my contribution recorded on the agenda as well as recorded on the minutes. I've asked that my contribution is recorded as such, but before now, email communication was difficult and I was not getting answers to questions. It's been observed in legal documents submitted by the town of Musgrave Harbour through the HR investigation that Municipal Affairs had suggested to the town that they're not required to respond to all of my emails. This harbored unfairness, discrimination, and a social pariah attitude towards me that prevented me from communicating openly up to this point. And I hope that this attitude is going to change going forward so that we can all be productive and collaborative. Keep in mind that my family and I have been through a heck of a lot. And for what? I'm definitely owed an apology, and I surely could be expected to have my back up and not put up with any intentional slights against my character or against the common good. The onus is on everyone else to validate why they acted the way they did, rather than me while I stand it up for myself in an ethical manner. I'm definitely going to get in trouble again soon because of the facts that 3 policies still exist that are against the law and the town are going to try to enforce. They're the public domain audio recording policy, the social media counselor censorship policy, the public meeting town copyright holding policy. This is not a video to talk about those points because this is going to get quite long. I'm only on page 4 of 13 actually. So I just wanted to acknowledge them here in this video. The chance that I will get in trouble again is almost 100%. So we might as well fix this so we can move on. This is what standing on a point of order was supposed to be meant to do. There are no reintegration points for a councillor such as myself who's been away for over a year due to unjust circumstances. If this was an employment situation, there'd be a way to reintegrate. My way of reintegration was using an established standing on point of order to talk about how to find a way to move forward. But in classical established pattern by the town, the others refused to participate in anything that had my name on it. It's not over. And even if everyone involved wishes to be over, which I do, and I'm sure everyone else does as well, because in the environment that's been created to support how we got here, it can't. The environment needs to be torn down and rebuilt and reconsidered. I also need an apology and $8,000 because due to none of my own fault, I've been put through this whole fiasco, and it's only right to make restitution out of things and make things right and put things behind us, so that we can concentrate energies into the community instead of fighting Grant. Imagine what could have been done if we combined energies focusing on something good instead of fighting me. I'm a ball of energy sometimes and a whirlwind of ideas while understanding many possibilities versus fantasy. This is why I got paid so well in my career and been so successful. And when I became elected, or before I became elected rather, I had 50 plus ideas and concepts on my platform that I thought the heck out of due to my disposition to think all logic holes until they're plugged and my mind can rest. I'm successful with quickly getting to the point where I can admit I don't know what I don't know, or that I don't care to know any further to be satisfied at the risk at that time. But I also think so much that when I try to give example of where I'm coming from, it turns into a lot of information because I'm so efficient at speaking sometimes my points that the background gets lost. This is because I realize that there's only so much that someone could know at any one point in time. And I know a heck of a lot of things. And I understand systems, even though I'm not familiar with particular systems. Just need to be exposed to it and get some information, which is a positive collaborative experience, which I never got here. I'm always looking to learn and grow and change. I tend to humbly argue as if though I'm right, while being committed to listen as if I'm wrong. So once email communication and function of our council is restored and I'm able to engage and contribute, I'm sure that we can have amazing and productive community through the town council. I've got great things to suggest and ways to accomplish it, while open to the idea that it might not be feasible or need to change. But I do know that we'll never get anywhere close to there if we never suggest it and we never think about it. Again, future conversations about my contribution to the next council meeting will be less bulky due to the need for me to explain myself and you guys to know where I'm coming from. This is where a sense of understanding comes from, where you would hope that a board such as the town council would try to understand a different neurological type person such as I am. This reading to you and singing is a totally different personality than me talking to you one-on-one and having a dynamic conversation. I'm sure you'll hear all of these stories again in future videos in different ways, shapes, or form, but not so much to vindicate myself in general suggestions and general videos. It'll be much shorter in the future, I promise. So let's get her done. Without further ado, let's go over my official agenda items and we'll comment on items that are not in email replies that I just sent the town last week and chat about the email in the end. So, for instance, we've got Arthur Party's turn safety. We've got the Lions Club water culvert under the parking lot. I want to designate the fire hall or youth center as a heat wave drop-in. I want to talk about the results of the designated bonfire wood drop area. To comment on this is an idea in place for citizens to put wood in a central place for a bonfire so that we don't end up putting trees and branches and fence posts and other things in the wilderness that can catch a fire and have a forest fire. We were going to check with the town workers and see where a good place for that would be. That we would ask that town wouldn't put any chemicals or any dangerous materials at this site that could be left there for maybe even a full year. So keep that in mind. We want to pollute the area. Further to that, I wanted to get an update on the revision of rules of procedure and the submission to municipal affairs for approval. I wanted to get an update on heritage bylaws that could protect the United Church now that it's being sold. Why are we waiting to get this meeting scheduled? I got a reply on that a little later, and I'll make some comments. I wanted to talk about the ATV bylaw review. I wanted to talk about how Municipal Affairs agrees that errors and omissions should be either modified in whole, as agreed, or both realities notated for the record. I wanted to figure out how the town was proceeding with those discrepancies that I reported. I had emailed and we spoke about them in 2 meetings, and there's a lot of aggression in talking about adopting those meetings and what reality was going to be recorded. I'd like to also motion that we charge back credit card fees to credit card users so we don't have to pay these unnecessary bank fees. I'd also like to check and see if has done any research on available training to help her advance her career so that we can consider paying for this career development. I've been speaking with officials at government as well as town clerk herself, and we had identified that it's a regular thing for a town clerk and town managers to do, which is to get education from the town itself. I called upon the town clerk to look into a normal path that would be regular for a town clerk or a town manager to take so that we can consider paying for that education. Normal corporations would do that kind of thing, and it's something that we should look into and keep an eye on to keep and grow our employees. We should also look into similar things for our other employees too, by the way. I'd also like to analyze overtime and see whether or not it would be better to hire extra workers or continue to pay overtime. I got that information, and the information seems reasonable. We'll have the town make comment on that in the meeting if they so desire about the details. I was going to ask about when we decided to get what we had decided to do about job descriptions. I was interested in having actual job descriptions that we can point at and say, look, these are job descriptions for this role, and this is what the role is. The union workers have them, technically, and I like to have it for everyone at the town hall. It would help in union grievances, it would help in employment discrepancies, and it would help just in general for people who know what their job is to a certain extent so they can go above and beyond. Not to limit people from working, as unions tend to do. But also, I wanted to get an update on what I've learned about the grocery store. This is a pretty interesting section here because I don't have much comments later on. I understand that the bank does not take responsibility for the store, and they point at a previous mortgage holder as responsibility for the property. Obviously, the previous mortgage holder does not own the property due to faulting on the mortgage. What we need to do is get a record from deeds to determine who the true owner of the property is. The bank lawyer also says that this property belongs to the mortgage holder. I've spoken with the Department of Environment, and they've said that they were out for an inspection, I believe recently, and they don't believe there's any impending problem. I would differ, especially if we would like to tear it down, but we'd like to see some follow-through and what it would look like when we tore it down. Due to the environment being under Service NL, I've asked if they would be able to help get access to the deeds and provide us and the titles and provide us information on who the true owner is, as well as offer some services to us to help pull together the manpower and longevity outside of our financial ability to get this torn down sooner than later, especially due to the fact that it's complicated and we have to get it done as a town, what we can do without going deeper and more financially in debt. And spending money like the $50,000 wasted on me would be so great to have to help facilitate this activity. But unfortunately, you wasted the money on me instead of wasting it with me on solutions and ideas. But those are the lessons we need to make. Well, that's it for the items that are not listed in the response back from the town. I'll comment on the other things in a moment. I had a lot of people contact me and ask what the responses I got back from the town. Well, I'm excited that I did get a response and that it looked like an honest attempt at attending to respond to my concerns. I do not think it's appropriate for me to share it word for word, so I'll do my best to paraphrase it. I do, however, want to talk about the response because it's a public position, whereas any mistakes or poor presentation may be open for correction and better paraphrased than quoted. People tend to think that if you're putting it in writing that it's in stone and you should have thought it out more before you wrote it. But words are fleeting. Ideas are fleeting. How do you feel now? That's really what matters the most. life goes on. And if you don't always have time to assess your messages that you send people around you, you have in your casual interactions, you have mistakes and issues sometimes. And hopefully people would give me the opportunity to correct myself, even if I did say something wrong before, or that I may have grew or learned something, or just in case that it was taken out of context due to poor word choice, or whether that's in person or in voice or in writing. I have a language disability, a language processing disability rather, and I'm often reaching for the correct words. Sometimes I often choose the incorrect ones, or I confuse or I offend, and I go off topic, and I decide to keep going unless I catch a serious blunder and hope that people would understand me and be compassionate towards me. It's taken me many hours to prepare to make this video, in pre-writing and editing and thinking about what I need to say clearly, and then making video to record it, then editing the video and then rendering it and then uploading it. It's quite a long process, quite the commitment. Again, imagine what we could have been done if this energy was put in to help and grow the community, as opposed to fighting against me and your own egos. This is all meant to accommodate my language processing disability and my desire to communicate clearly and make positive change and interact with people properly. Communication will get shorter and more effective as you learn to trust me, understand me, and I get over this aggressive response to my will to be a contributor and to be better understood, contrary to the lies and manipulation that's been fed to you by a sick, select few and some misled folk. The misled can always fix their mistakes, but the sick few playing games should not be led away with their excuses. The time for excuses have ended, as most of the items that I had in the email are items that I'm bringing to the next council meeting. I'll review them all in a deeper way and prepare for the meeting and put things in context for you. These are not in the email that I had sent to the town hall. There's some additional information added. So there was 20 questions. We're on page 7, so we're halfway through. Hopefully I can get through this fast because the details aren't so heavy. But I asked, what's the harassment process? I was relentlessly and unprofessionally harassed by multiple town volunteers and firefighters on Facebook, and I asked them to stop, but they did not. They need to know that as an elected official, under harassment policy, or just being decent human beings, that they also need to act and behave in a respectful way in your place of employment and your association of employment, and that their behavior was not appropriate in any way, shape, or form by any professional or rational human being's opinion. I got the documents, by the way. And there was, but I've got to still file them. Number 2 was, please accommodate me in my language processing disability to begin the harassment process by providing the steps, the application, and the guidance in completing it. I was advised it was easy to follow, and it would be sent to me, which it was, with no questions about how I could be helped to accommodate my language disability. There was no way to bridge this gap. I replied that the legislation says that I need accommodation, and I asked who I can do for this. Will I get a reply? Who knows? I think people are being protected because when the harassment claim was put against me, it was taken care of in 4 hours. It's been 7 months for mine. So obviously there's some discrimination here. And I asked, please provide me with the new harassment policy. I was told it was provided, but I replied I was looking for the final draft or an updated a version of it. As one could imagine, with issues keeping me away with my interactions with the council and staff via email, and the legal issues, that it's hard to be clear on what's current and what's new information. If things were done respectful in good time or with care, all could have been clearer, faster, and responded to in full. Then I asked, please provide me with a violence prevention policy so I can take a look at it, because OHS was ordered them to make one in regards to the assault that happened in a council meeting. They basically need to make a plan about how to make sure that that doesn't happen again. I think having a conversation about policies and procedures and the illegal rules and how I'm going to act and how we're going to take care of the situation if that happens again is a very important part of this violence prevention plan. I was responded that it was not done yet and is still awaiting approval by OHS. So obviously, if it's been submitted, they haven't really considered how to make sure that this don't happen again, because they haven't resolved the issues that made us get here. So I replied, that's okay. Legislation says that it would be needed to provide it on request. If it's not available, please let me know when it's available. So I'm just waiting for it. So it says here also the next question would be, I asked, is anyone going to clean the road by Arthur Party's turn? I had concerns because the turn's very degraded with holes and gravel. People need to hug the turn where the gravel is on the road while others go into the holes. There's only enough room for one car really, and there's so much gravel on the outside turn that any vehicles trying to round that turn, especially if there's any pedestrians there at the time, makes things quite precarious. I have met my daughter there many times on the turn by chance, and she says that there's other times when cars pass her. Also, it's not likely directly related, but a school bus went off the road there one time and hit the light pole. So it's possible to lose control in that corner. It's happened. Any cleanup on a regular basis would help because any damage or danger to life and limb is a liability and now on public record as being a concern. It was responded that the area was clean before, but it keeps coming back and it would be no further maintenance or cleaning done on the area. I don't think that's a good reply, and I think that there should be something done so that we're aware of it and we should accommodate it in the future infrastructure, as well as assign a regular cleanup twice a year for the area. We all know how unions work. It's not specifically asked for, therefore it won't be done. I tell this story when I visit someone in hospital one time. I looked up towards the ceiling and I saw this old-fashioned wallpaper strip from 1996 painted over, and I thought to myself, oh, this is the classic example of unions being given instructions, said to paint a room, but did not say take down the wallpaper first. So how can we make sure that this kind of attitude doesn't happen? We're never going to get progress if we have that type of attitude in the community. Again, I was told off for picking up a garbage can at the park and putting it out of the wind because it's a union job. But if the union is not specifically told to do it, it's not going to be done. Simple as that. I've had some council property from little sticks that they put up for snow that were broken off and somehow got onto my property, put next to the fire hydrant for maybe 2 months now, and I've seen people go by, do different things next to that fire hydrant, but no one's taken those sticks, even though one of them could have a refund available on it because they're not supposed to break, but they did. It's a plastic one. So, all these little things, it goes much deeper than just surface. You hope someone to act right and do normal things, but people don't tend to do that. They tend to do something that's usually controlled by weird thinking, not picking up the sticks because it's not my job today, or not being allowed to move that garbage can because I'm a councillor, I'm not a town worker. My other question here is, has the town taken responsibility for the Lions Club public infrastructure along the parking lot edge that belongs to the town? It was replied that the town's not responsible for the lot, but we can help them if they ever decide to fix it. I responded that I'm sure the Lions Club and original owners did not put that culvert in their parking lot or have the pipes underneath the parking lot put there by them. I'm pretty sure that was put there by the town. Was it not? The problem is with the culvert falling apart. Are we not responsible for the culvert? If the Lions Club was to decide to pull up that parking lot and fix it themselves, are you saying that they could fill them with dirt, or is the town going to have to be responsible to replace this culvert and put it back together when the driveway is done? Can they fill it with dirt now? Is that a solution? If the responsibility for the Lions Club, then the easy solution would be just to fill it up, not to fix the culvert. If it's responsibility for the town, then the town must tear it up and fix the culvert. Then it's the Lions Club's responsibility to put it back together at such point which the town could offer assistance to put the parking lot back together. Right? That would be a reasonable response. Hopefully we can talk about this in the meeting. We had arranged to have a day to hear about Heritage Newfoundland bylaw training. The response was in regards to time management or lack of time available to do the related activities. I responded that that's okay, as long as you're keeping the heritage representative in the loop and not leaving her hanging, waiting for a reply. We need to get this done before the United Church is sold and possibly destroyed or dismantled. I would like to have a conversation about this in the meetings. Has the councillors been sent the ATV bylaw emails? I was told simply yes. I responded, thanks. I was not CC'd on it. Please CC me on all council forwards. I'd like to comment that ATV bylaws will allow us to permit ATVs on the streets legally so that police don't have that reason to offer tickets to users of ATVs. It will help people from Ragged Harbour legally be able to drive the road from their house and come down to the Fisherman's Museum. I think that bylaws allowing individuals to use the street will cause many people to slow down because they'd be afraid to be caught while driving on the street currently. Also, it will establish guidelines, and people would know what the guidelines are and expect everyone else to follow those guidelines. Hopefully then, people will drive on the right side of the road and also drive with the cars calmly and collectively without thinking that they're bothering the cars behind them or causing issues. Bylaws will help us make a statement about our environment and will establish a framework to allow us to invite people into our town and use the beaches and trails that we could very well establish as a tourism attraction. We know it will inevitably happen at some point, so let's make sure that we can have it under control before it gets out of hand. I've got questions here in regards to my email about ATIPA training on minutes. It was welcome to be seen, so I advised them in a response that I'd sent it back to them, and that she was invited by this individual with excitement and enthusiasm through me to reach out to receive the training that this individual had specifically offered the town clerk and town managers. He's the government official for ATIPA training, and he's developed this minutes concept, and he'd like to share it, but it's not official training, but it's available. And because the town clerk had interest in doing this kind of thing, it would be great to be able to connect these two individuals because it's available. So I resent the message and I sent it to the top of her inbox. If she's interested in anything I send and say and do and want to be collaborative and have growth, then she would be on top of that. This will allow us to be very careful with what we put into our minutes so we don't have any identifying information of private citizens being made available willy-nilly in minutes to put your privacy at risk. This is the reason why I've been careful with the minutes that I've been putting out in public, because there's some private information in it. I've been redacting the information at times, but it's quite time consuming to do this. It's, like I said, hours and hours to do this video, plus other times I got to spend time with my family. I've got music to do. That's what I really enjoy to do. And, being put through this is ridiculous. So you out there who have issues with me being a keyboard warrior, well, this is what I do, and this is the strength that I bring. If you let me do what I want to do, I'll bring amazing things. You do what you do, I do what I do, and if not, pack off and do what you do somewhere else. The minutes privacy training will also help us understand privacy regulation in regards to other council meetings operations specifically, which is different than general privacy training, and though very helpful. Then I asked, did you see my email about the request for the town to collect minutes and documents on topic of the old deteriorating grocery store? I was told in response that I had everything that was on file. I clarified that I wasn't aware that there was any other information besides what had been provided to a private citizen that I could talk about. So I asked, was there any individuals that I can talk to who had made calls to anybody, or anybody who did work on this from the council? Is there anyone on the current council that has any insight that I can take a look at? I haven't got a response on this right now, but I got most of all the minutes. It's pretty good. I have them all organized, renamed by date, and I've noticed that there's some missing. I've asked the town for the missing minutes, but I've yet to have a response on this. I'll go through these and see what has been spoken about over the past 20 years. I'll find out if what is in those documents, if I can do or make things better by suggesting solutions or finding whatever's happened or being aware of what we've decided over the past 20 years. Now, especially with help with the grocery store conversation. I asked in my email, did you consider opening the youth center or fire hall for citizens during heat waves? The reply was yes, with comments, but I can't quote it. It's not appropriate. I replied that that's great. I'd like to bring it up in next meetings to prepare for next year, and I'll motion this. I'd like the announcements to be made on heat wave days that if anyone would like to come to the town hall or come to the youth center to cool off, to come by, and that we'd have the doors open and someone down there hanging out with some entertainment or something like that, a way to keep the community together. bring the community together rather, and a way to keep people safe instead of being stuck in their hot houses. I've heard lots of people complaining, even being stuck in my house so much, being busy during prime time most days. When I've gone out, people complaining about the heat, being stuck in their house. If they had an option to go to a cooling center in their own town, this would be awesome. I think other towns should do something very similar if they haven't already, and consider it. I asked in my next question, did you see my email about emissions and corrections? The response was simply yes. There was no questions about how to move forward and make these changes official, or any questions about my suggestions. My response was that I was told by Municipal Affairs that errors and omissions should be either corrected in whole, or there should be 2 versions of events notated. That would make things easier. In the next meeting, they're going to ask me whether or not the minutes had any errors and omissions, and ask to adopt them. And this was in the meeting when I stood on point of order to declare that the policy to disallow public recording at meetings was illegal. I have an official email sent to the town highlighting my account of events, and it states the difference on how my actions were intended to be delivered, contrary to the way that the presentation has been in the recollection of the minutes. And all of doing this is a long process. I'm not going to get into all those details at this moment. I replied, great. If you have any questions in regards to my corrections and how it was suggested to remedy the objections, or the details about what I'm proposing, please let me know. I'm sure that we would like to adopt the minutes in the next meeting, and it would be great to resolve this out of council, I had said. I did not get a reply. So we're going to need to talk about this again in our next meeting. This means, based on our last meeting, there's going to be some aggressive conversations going on again, some yelling and talking on top of each other, and some out of order, I'm sure. And I'm sure I'll be blamed for it, as opposed to the people being aggressive. This is the kind of conversation should not be happening in a workplace. I asked another question. Did you get my message about calculating the cost of credit cards with the idea of charging back costs or eliminating credit cards? I got a reply suggesting that we're not sure about this at this time, and to bring it to a council meeting. I'd like to propose that we suggest that we charge back the cost of credit cards to the user of the credit card, and I'll motion this to be considered at the next meeting. I also asked if I could have the minutes and supporting documents for May the 11th, 2023. I got the minutes, but there were no supporting documents as referenced in the minutes. I asked, could I please get a current copy of policies and procedures under the Access to Information Act that are in place and enforced, including rules of procedure, so that I know what modifications have been made to the rules of procedure regarding standing on point of order. I must quote this because it's hard to paraphrase. The reply was, we eliminated point of order and all Robert's rules. I haven't had time to make any new policies. Therefore, you have the most recent copy. My response was, I had advised you in the presence of Municipal Affairs that if the town would want to modify the rules of procedure, then they had to submit it to Municipal Affairs in order to make it official. The document would need to be modified before it's official. I asked, have you contacted Municipal Affairs to confirm the procedure to modify rules of procedure? I have. The town was planning on getting a reference to modifying the rules of procedure in the minutes since it was brought into effect, as I referenced on the last page of the document. Have you found that reference? I don't think you will find it because, as I said, it needs to go through an official process and procedure, and it cannot be modified ad hoc. I don't think that it happened, so it's not official. The document existed before now, and when I stood on point of order, we must keep in mind that this is a parliamentary procedure, which is what the council's processes and procedures and rules of processes are based on. Robert's Rule of Order is basically a summary and explanation of parliamentary procedures for dummies, or a way for people who can't understand parliamentary procedure to better understand parliamentary procedure and to execute it. To say that we got rid of Robert's Rule of Order is like saying we got rid of the dictionary, and now you can't find the definitions anymore, and you just need to guess and figure out on your own. Standing on a point of order allows councils to step outside of regular procedure, to call out situations that are illegal or something that just shouldn't have happened due to a conflict of rules that was just missed. It's not to change decisions if someone thinks that something should have been done better, but rather to call attention to something that was drastically wrong. To remove that clause from your rules of procedure is irrational and irresponsible. It simply does not make sense, and it's evident of the kind of problems that I've been dealing with on council since I began. They just don't understand what they're doing in regards to understanding what this kind of thing means. And you can't rationalize with them because Grant said it, so they want to do something different. Regardless, if they can't find reference of these conditions being removed from the rules of procedure, my standing on a point of order was legal. It was rational within our rules of procedure at the time, which hasn't been changed as far as I'm concerned, and something that needs to have been recognized in the minutes as happening. These documents, the rules of procedure, are available at municipal affairs. If anything were to have changed in the minutes to say that the rules of procedure have changed, then municipal affairs would have a copy of this document. All you need to do is call up municipal affairs and ask them to give you the document that's current, and you will see whether or not standing on a point of order is part of those rules of procedure. Simple as that. But it's not as easy as that because Grant suggested it. We just need to follow through and recognize me standing on a point of order, and then we can deal with the problems like rational people. I asked when's the cutoff for adding things to the agenda. I was told it's 3 business days prior to the date of the meeting. I was told that my agenda items are added to today's meeting. I asked why my agenda items are not under the applicable section and at the end instead. I was told it was for the better organization and fairness to all committees. I asked if it was satisfactory under the rules of procedure for me to engage with the committees on questions from that section. It would seem quite unbalanced and unfair to an elected official if I were not able to speak during certain sections on the topics of interest. I got no reply, and the meeting's today. I'd like to motion tonight that my items for the agenda are listed in bullet form as opposed to correspondence, which is what is listed at this time, and my contribution should be recorded in full as per other people's points of the agenda. My next question was, what's the town's reply and advice to the 50 Plus Club in regards to the town becoming a Donee? The reply was basically that the town would not be becoming a Donee at this time. I replied, thanks. I'll be keeping you advised of the meetings and developments in attaining this status. I've been speaking with an organization who helps set up nonprofits, as well as multiple trusted accountants, and I'm getting closer to understanding how to set up a nonprofit money engine, economic development association type organization for the town or as a standalone. I understand it's pretty easy to do, but we just need a board, which would either need to be represented by the town themselves or by a proxy board represented by a committee answering to the council, or a standalone board as an organization out on its own. Having this under the wing of the town would be the ideal way of continuing vision over many years as opposed to just the tenature of the council themselves. The idea is to allow other communities to copy this idea and run their own projects and avail of their own funding. I believe this is the way of having community growth for the future. My vision is to create a money engine that can avail of charitable donations for organizations such as NetAway, for instance, so that individuals from the community or people from the board themselves can present projects or ideas for submission to rinse and repeat yearly to build infrastructure and developments within the community. The Vikings Playground Committee, for instance, they set themselves up this way because I assume, as I had found, that this is the only way for them to get this type of money. When I tried to set up the community garden, 100% covered by charity, $50,000 with a $2,000 administration fee for expenses, it was not well understood by the town at all. And I found out that no one could be responsible for this money except for the town, as per Canada Revenue Agency. We had churches and we had a couple other organizations, but the Lions Club was not one of them, for instance. The only way to do this was for the town council to embrace it, because the town council corporation itself has no longevity like other corporations. Every 3 years or whatever, it has new town councilors, and it's not like a regular corporation that has long-term growth in mind. At least with an organization like this, it could be like a marketing arm for a small town, a best interest group to handle projects, a think tank, something that only the town can handle and could handle, no matter how small a town may be. I asked, I see that the town has authorized recordings of audio meetings by the town clerk. Has this begun? I was told that this exists, but it's not for the public. I asked, without having to make an access to information request, would I please be able to have a copy of those audios? What's the process for me to do that? I have no reply on this. I'm going to make a request in a few more days once I've gotten up to my 10 days time limit. Then I asked, could I get all town minutes from the year 2000 onward? I got it all, but as noted, I had lacked a few. And then I asked, have you found reference to the minutes discussing the rules of procedure and standing on point of order? I was responded that we do not use Robert's Rule of Order or standing on order. There was a motion made to remove this from the policies and procedures. I reminded the clerk that all of the wording in the official document in the Minister's Office at Municipal Affairs is the same document that we have approved and in the Town Hall. The current record contains standing on point of order. It's a very basic parliamentary procedure. In order to remove this, you need to go through a process, and because the process has not happened, and the copy of the rules and procedures that the Minister's Office contains standing on point of order and reference to Robert's Rule of Order, and it would be a moot point to say that it's been removed unless the document has been modified, resubmit it for Minister approval, and post it in a public place, as per legislation. The problem here is that I would like to do things the right way. I'm a very logical and organized person, and if you don't do things the right way, I am upset that you're not playing by the rules and you're being difficult, and especially if you're accusing me of being difficult. I take information and I put it together and I connect all the loose ends. I be sure that I know the rules and I play by those rules, and I expect other people to do the same. I found here that when I tell people what the rules are, the way things that are established to be, the ways to resolve things by using the rules, I'm the one who's been told that I'm irrational or being difficult to work with. And as I said from the beginning, if we were all held accountable, we were fully transparent, as well as kind, compassionate, and loving to each other, we would find out very quickly where people stand and come to a rational and mutual accommodating solution for everyone. Because I'm so fixed on doing what's right, and I'm unwilling to budge or alienate my rights, and I hold on to consideration for others as well while using empathy and compassion, I'm easy to trample on, especially to be told that I'm difficult to work with because of this, especially when no one knows what's been said or done or my motives, and they're unwilling to call it by name. But most of you don't know what's true because all the hate that's been put out there on me for standing up for what's right and embarrassing some people because they made the mistake to not follow the rules and to be a good person. I'm sorry that I caused that embarrassment, but the only way to make things better is to talk about it and call a spade a spade. If not, you'd be stuck in a dark hole of lies. Imagine where I could be if I couldn't stand up for myself after all of this. Anyway, I can ramble on forever, but this takes a lot of time, hours in fact. This whole fiasco has taken a lot of time, a lot out of me. If you want to know anything about me, then ask me. That would be the easiest way to figure things out. It's really the biggest lesson I've learned on this. If you want to know something, look for it straight in the horse's mouth. Don't make up lies and gossip. And you need to talk things out like logical, rational, compassionate adults. And if you don't, then you are the problem. We're not going to stand for negative and destructive, hateful people anymore. God bless, and we'll see you on the other side.